Load the box. It is Eagles week already. It's fast approaching Thursday night football week 2. The Vikings get the first prime game of the year. They were not on Prime Video last year at all because their Thursday night game was Thanksgiving, which happened to be a NBC game. And so, minor details, things that don't really matter in terms of the outcome of the game. But for those of you who care about such things, it's the first time the Vikings will play on Prime Video.
It's a fun
It's
tidbit that I didn't realize, and I'm glad you said
Yep.
that because I love things like that. That is a
Yeah.
trivia question.
Um, so the Vikings go to Philadelphia again, week 2 again, prime time again. It feels very deja vu to last year. There's sort of this feeling, at least I would imagine, around the fan base and the media that is sort of shaking in their boots because of what happened last year in week 2. I don't think the players have that perspective, frankly. Believe it or not, Kirk Cousins generally plays well in Philadelphia, and um, he clinched a division there once as a member of the Washington, formerly known as Redskins, and he's generally played well there. The Vikings had a resounding victory there in 2018, so I don't think the players have that sort of a attachment to Philadelphia in a negative way. I think the fans and the media do for sure. Where are you at? Just sort of like high level going into this game, level of confidence. Where are you at?
2 on scale of 1 to 10. And it's nothing to do with, like, it's nothing to do with like, oh, it's prime time Cousins. Oh, it's in Philadelphia, and it's almost, there was a trope a couple years ago where it was like, we always play in Seattle for prime time games, and it sucks because we always lose them, and oh, this is terrible. Nothing like the Eagles are just a good team,
Yeah.
and so I'll probably give you a 2 when we play the Bengals or when we play the Chiefs or when we play any good team. So I'm not. Let me move my mic a little bit away because I think it's a little bit too close to me. I'm not. I'm not gonna boast false confidence. We both predicted this game was gonna be a loss. I'm pretty sure in the, preseason, which is not that far away. Or not that distant in the past, I guess I should say. But I do think it's going to be interesting to talk about what we expect the Eagles to do schematically that will be different from what Tampa Bay did, or if they're just going to copy paste what Tampa's defense did, but with, in my opinion, much better personnel on the defensive side of the ball. So
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a fun one to break down, and it should be a fun one to watch. I don't see us getting beat, 25-7 again. I think it'll be a closer loss, but I'm kind of
Yeah.
spoiling it. Spoiling my prediction anyway.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I don't think we're going to see the same thing that we saw last year. I think there's going to be a lot more fight from the Vikings, and I think our defense will disrupt a little bit more. We can get into that, but I think there's going to be a much better concerted effort by the Vikings in this game compared to last year, especially considering what happened on Sunday against the
Yeah.
Bucks. One thing I will say, the Vikings were very good on short weeks last year. Um, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I remember last year being kind of astounded at any sort of short week, whether it was Sunday to Saturday or Monday to Sunday or Sunday to Thursday. I think the Vikings had a very good clip last year when it came to short weeks. So whether that's good preparation or randomness, it's hard to say. But I do think the Vikings did a very good job um, in short weeks. So, and also last year, I mean, the Thursday night game the Vikings played last year came after getting shellacked by the Cowboys at home. And so, if you want to make any sort of parallels to make yourself feel better, the Vikings rebounded well from a disappointing home loss with a following Thursday victory. And so, the good thing is you got a short week, and then you can flush it. Um, and so it will we'll get sort of our verdict on where this team is at quicker than if we had to wait till Sunday.
Yeah, I think that let's get into some let's get into some breakdowns, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Not to rush through the show, but um, I'm getting my tablet situated for like I'm tracking our game picks, which I picked it would be the Vikings winning by 17 on last week, and you picked the Vikings winning by 10. So I guess technically you were the closest. So we'll chalk that one up as a W for you. Um, I'll go ahead and put a
I don't
W.
think either of us get a win for that. I feel like that's just a
I'm
bunch of L's.
it feels like an L, but my brain won't let me not say that you won last week. You also said that the Vikings would score. Well, you said one team would score 16 points, and the Vikings scored 17 points, so you were close there. But I said the Bucks would score 17. So who knows? Who knows what arbitrary rules system we're using to grade that on our picks? But defensively, and I wanted to say this earlier in the week, talking about the Tampa Bay game and what to expect with Philadelphia as we sort of dipped our toes into the Philly game.
Yeah.
I don't think Philadelphia is going to have to do some of the things that Tampa did to the Vikings defensively. I don't think they're going to need to bring pressure to get Cousins off of his game and leave Jefferson or KJ or Addison open like Tampa Bay did. I think Philly's just going to get a pass rush because the strength of their team, maybe, are their defensive tackles in Jordan Davis and Jalen Caudo, who are just mean men on the interior of the line.
And Fletcher Cox.
And Fletcher Cox. Yeah, who could,
He's still
who
there.
could forget Fletcher Cox? Yeah. So you look at that trio of interior linemen, pair that with Ed Ingram, Ezra Cleveland, maybe not even Garrett Bradbury if he doesn't come back. So maybe Austin Schlottman. We are looking at the perfect storm for Kirk Cousins to be in danger come Thursday night.
Yeah.
And so I won't get into my official prediction yet, but I will say it's going to be. We thought the offense looked stagnated by Tampa. Now they're going to get the same amount of pressure, not blitzing, so there's going to be more guys in coverage. Cousins is going to have to be on his A++ game. O'Connell's going to have to dial up ways to keep Cousins clean, ways to get the ball out of his hands quick, and we're going to need to see Jefferson, Addison, and KJ, maybe even throw in Addison and Chandler. They are going to have to make guys miss and turn a 5-yard gain into a 10-yard gain and turn 20-yard gains into touchdowns. Like, we're going to have to see the Vikings. This is going to have to be one of the best games we play all year. We have a very difficult schedule. Unfortunately, that's life as the reigning defending division champs. So we shall see, if that comes to fruition. But that is what worries me the most about this game is Tampa Bay was dropping 6 into coverage and they were bringing 5. Philadelphia is going to drop 7. And they're still going to get the same amount of pressure, in my opinion. So what worries you? I know I took the easy, the low-hanging fruit by saying, hey, the offensive line's a problem in Minnesota. The defensive line's a strength for Philly. What concerns you going into this game other than that?
Yeah, I mean, just to stick on the side of our offense against their defense, we can talk about the flip side in a minute, but it's the running game side of that. The Vikings did not show much life on the running game yesterday against the Buccaneers, and it was not an encouraging sign like we talked about earlier this week for a team that seemed to emphasize the run game in the offseason. 41 rushing yards is just not going to cut it. And, the old adage, I feel like, old school approach would have been like, the running back isn't good. It was not Alexander Madison's fault. The Vikings running game just did not get going. There was not many clean holes. There were not many opportunities to make any sort of explosive runs. And other than just the face value of, you need to run well to win games, against a team that brings elite pressure like the Eagles, and against a team that, like you said, is going to make passing the ball difficult, having the run game as a counterattack is going to be vital. You don't need to run for 150 yards. but you need to be able to have a running game that is something to be respected from the opponent. Um, and they need to fear it a little bit. There needs to be some element or ability to lean on the Eagles. And I don't care if it's creative. I don't care if it's jet sweeps. I don't care if it's end arounds to Justin Jefferson or you know, short yardage end arounds to KJ Osborne so he can just plow through somebody and get a yard. I don't care what the approach is, but there needs to be a concerted effort to get the running game going. And not that they gave up on the running game on Sunday against Tampa Bay, but only running the ball 14 times design or 15 designed runs is just that just won't work. Like you can't drop back to pass 50 times and run the ball 15 times.
Right.
That's way out of balance. And so yeah, especially with Philadelphia going to be breathing down Kirk Cousins' neck all evening long. So um either that or there needs to be some very quick passing game sort of run simulations where it's a screen or just a quick toss out to Jefferson and he runs forward for 5 yards. There needs to be some element of quick game. You can't rely on the bread and butter of the deep crossing routes for everything. I don't care if they win the game 13-12, but there needs to be an ability to control the clock and control the game in a much better way than they did on Sunday. I
Yeah.
mean, the fact that the Buccaneers out time of possession to them, granted only by a minute and a half, but that's sort of inexplicable considering how dominant the Vikings felt for the first half of that game. You got to be able to control the clock a lot better than they did.
Yeah, I think that is going to be the key is if you want to win the game, how do you do it? And you do it by playing clean football. You don't throw picks. You look at last year in Philadelphia, which I get it. The teams are different, but they are also very much the same. Same quarterback, same weapons on offense. Philadelphia brought back. Philadelphia actually had a bit of turnover on their defense. If you look at some of the guys that they lost, C.J. Gardner-Johnson is now in Detroit, so he's someone that you don't have to worry about anymore. Slay is still there, but you look at that, I'm thinking of one play, and it was the play where I thought it was Cousins' fault. I was proven well wrong by the internet, and so I admit that I was wrong. But, Cousins throws a ball where he's expecting JJ to break in, and JJ doesn't break in, and it's an easy interception for Philadelphia. And you just can't have plays like that. I think you also have to jump out early in this game if you want a chance at winning it. And you've got to come out, you've got to score on the first possession, you've got to get points the first 3 times you touch the ball, I think, just to show Philadelphia, no, we're not, this isn't going to be you're up 20-7 at halftime, and, you're up whatever. You just have to be in the game at halftime, maybe leading at halftime, and then you take it into the second half.
Yeah.
And you just, you have to play clean. And I think that's the crucial thing is if the Vikings win this game, I think you're going to see 0 picks from Cousins. And I'm not saying that he's not aggressive, but I think he's aggressive in the right moments. He doesn't make a mistake. The receivers make the plays on the ball over DBs. They win contested catches and don't let them get picked off. And, I maybe you need a fluke touchdown to beat them. They're the defending NFC champs. So if I sound like I'm talking about them like they are the final boss of a video game, it's because they should be treated as such. They're the defending NFC champions, and they barely lost the Super Bowl. So, and they have, maybe the second best quarterback in the NFL. He's top 5 for sure. So, I think that's my key to victory is going to be clean football. Don't fumble.
Yeah.
Don't let Cousins get killed from behind and fumble the ball. Cousins, don't throw a stupid pick. Just play your game, play it well, effective offense, chunk down the field, and eat the clock, and I think that you'll be all right. What if the Vikings want to win this game, what do they need to do?
I think very much of that. I would like to see Kirk Cousins go 18 for 26 for 209 yards and 2 touchdowns. and I would like to see. I don't care who gets the runs. I think it'd be a lot of Madison, but I would like to see Madison and Chandler combined for over 100 yards of rushing and control the clock because, like you said, the Philadelphia Eagles are an explosive offense, and how you beat explosive offenses is you keep them on the sideline.
Yes.
And now it's sort of a it's a little bit of wish fulfillment for an offense that did not run the ball well much of last year and did not run the ball well in week 1. But I have, like I said on the Buccaneers recap show, I have to believe that one game is not the end all be all of the season for this team. And because of the emphasis they made in the run game with Josh Oliver and re signing CJ Ham and focusing on a downhill running back like Alexander Madison, this is a team that should run the ball well, at least well enough. They're not going to be the Adrian Peterson Vikings. They're not even going to be the Aaron Jones Packers. But there needs to be much more effectiveness, and I would love to see that as sort of the way in which they win this game. Out time of possession them 35-25 and just control the game and win 23-19. Something, like where
Yeah.
you force Philadelphia to just sit on the sidelines and watch. So I think it's going to be that, like you said, clean football. It has to be. And that's going to be a point of emphasis in this short week of preparation because O'Connell said basically like, you remove the self-inflicted wounds we made and we probably win that game. There's a different outcome. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. And so now Philadelphia on the road is a much stiffer opponent than Tampa Bay at home. But the idea that you can't win this game is a farce. And I think the Vikings, at least on paper, have the horses to do it. It's just a matter of execution and being very crisp.
Yeah.
So I'm right there with you, sort of with the clean football and sort of simplistic approach to the game. Let's not
The
try and outscore them. Let's out possession them.
Yeah, I think that that's a very good point. And you look at, and this is such a bizarre example to use for someone that's on the record, hasn't retracted it yet. Vikings are winning the Super Bowl this year. You almost have to like do what the Colts do to the Chiefs when they have Jonathan Taylor, and you just have to eat the clock. Don't let Jalen Hurts on the field. He can't hurt you. The mean man can't hurt you if he's not on the field. And so I like this idea of a very clean running game, a very clean approach that we've kind of constructed here. Now everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face, right? That's the
Absolutely.
Tyson. Cousins said it a different way. Said he read it in a book that a Marine wrote. I don't know that that's true. I call bullcrap on Kirk Cousins. I think he just twisted the words of Mike Tyson or whoever it was. But I'm not here to cause controversy, but I guess I'll cause a little bit of a controversy. I do think that you have to be explosive if you're going to beat him, and that's why I need to see, and this is going to be an ongoing thing. KJ Osborne, need to see less of him. If you're going to run a lot of two tight ends, if you're going to run a lot of non-3 wide receiver sets, need to see more Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison to me is a touchdown threat. KJ Osborne to me is a guy who, and obviously I'm being hyperbolic, but he's a guy who has a ball in his hands for a touchdown before halftime and lets the defender take it away from him right before half in the Tampa Bay game. And KJ's a good 3. I've said this over and over again. He's a very good 3. I don't think he's a 2. I think Jordan Addison is a 1 that we could put as our 2. And the Eagles saw Jefferson had, 9 catches, 150 yards or something. So they're not going to want to let Justin Jefferson win us this game. So we need big days out of whoever the wide receiver 2 is. Maybe even, obviously it's almost like we have the highest paid tight end in the NFL. He needs to show up and have a big game. But whenever it comes to truly explosive plays, I need to see another 60-yard Addison touchdown, at least a couple of deep shots, to the wide receivers, maybe even to Hawkinson, on a seam or something like that. So that's what I want to see. Something that does kind of get me going and that does get me pretty excited about this matchup. We have speed on this defense. I feel like last year in the matchup, we saw Jalen Hurts running, and our linebackers just couldn't keep up with him. They couldn't catch him, and when they did catch him, they had trouble bringing him down. This defense is mean, and this defense is quick. And so I'm ready to see Ivan Pace blow up Jalen Hurts a couple times. I'm ready to see Jalen Hurts maybe get caught from behind on a blitz, maybe something like that. And so let's not act like Jalen Hurts is Peyton Manning Tom Brady dissecting defenses surgically with his arm. A lot of what they do offensively involves him running the ball. And I'm not knocking the guy. That's just his play style, and he's very good at it, and it's very effective. But Brian Flores and this defense, I think, are going to confuse the young stud quarterback, and I'm excited to see what they bring. And that kind of hints at my game ball. Is it okay if I say my game ball?
Go for it.
Mekhi Blackmon is getting his first NFL interception on Thursday night.
Spicy.
Yeah, it is a little spicy. I think that I liked some of what I saw from him. It wasn't like he was lighting up the screen, jumping off of it at you. But I think you're going to see a blitz. I think you're going to see Jalen Hurts being laying down. Maybe, running to his left. He's a right-handed quarterback. He goes to throw in that awkward, trying to get his shoulder square and all that. He goes to throw the ball, and I think Mekhi Blackmon's going to jump out. I'm not going to say it goes for 6, but he's going to have, and it's going to be a good one. It's going to be a good one. I'll just say that. So I'm going with Mekhi Blackmon for my defensive game ball. You, of course, have the offense. We'll save score predictions for post-game ball. If you want to bundle yours together, I think that's acceptable.
Sweet. I do want to ask you, I didn't get a chance to watch the Eagles much yesterday apart from the final drive. So I do want to ask you what you saw yesterday that we need to keep an eye out for. But just really quickly on the offensive side, I think, if I'm going to stay with my time of possession, bleed the clock sort of approach against these guys, albeit a very difficult way to win. I mean, there's no easy way to beat the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm gonna go with Alexander Madison. I like I said, I like his running style approach. He's not someone who's going to be afraid of the contact that the Eagles initiate. He's going to initiate it himself, and I like him as a matchup going against the Eagles much better than I do Dalvin Cook.
Yeah.
And it's just because of the style of running. Cook is shifty and quick, but to beat an Eagles team, you got to be able to hit them just as much as they hit you. And I'm gonna go with Alexander Madison with the game ball. As much as I would like to sit here and say that the Vikings will win, and like I said, I would not be shocked if they do. I think it's going to be a competitive game. I think they lose 27-20. Just last week I predicted them to lose this game, so I'm not going to change on a dime just because I think they need a win. I think it's going to be a much more competitive game than we saw last year against Philly. One thing I'll just point out too, speaking from the offensive side of things, is I'm very curious to see the Justin Jefferson Darius Slay matchup. Because last year it was very clear that Slay won that matchup. He got 2 interceptions off of Cousins and sort of took Jefferson out of the game. And I don't know. I want to see Jefferson be able to sort of punch back a little bit. And because Slay's going to be physical. He's going to be aggressive. He's going to probably talk some trash. I would like to see Jefferson match that level of intensity. He's not really a trash talker, which I'm more than okay with. But the level of ferocity needs to be matched. And I don't care if Jefferson has a big game offensively. But I'm very curious to see sort of how he responds and how he grinds through that matchup, because it's going to be about, 80+% of the time those two guys are going to go against each other. So
yeah,
that's going to be very much a key to victory for either team.
Yeah, I think that, and let me quickly play a little bit, because I feel like that we've talked about Jefferson, and we didn't really give him, I think, enough credit, earlier in the week. he did have 150 yards in the opener.
He
Like
was
he played
great.
he was great.
Yeah.
He's the best wide receiver in the league. Tyreek Hill wants to give him a run for his money. He played, holy cow, won me my fantasy matchup in both leagues because I have him in both of my fantasy leagues. But I do think that Jefferson. I don't think his frustration is coming from a lack of targets. I don't think it's even solely from a lack of winning necessarily. I think it comes from, he knows what Cousins can do in, when he's protected or when he, has the time to do it. And so to see your quarterback, who you kind of have this odd couple relationship with, to see him just getting pounded and assaulted all game long, I think it's frustrating for him. And so I think there might be some frustration from him about some front office decisions, as well as the fact that, maybe his contract does play into it. And, I don't want to count that out, but did think it was worth saying publicly. And I'm speaking for Will Hill. Jefferson played outstanding on Sunday.
He was I mean, I made a note of this in the second or third quarter. I just noted down as I was jotting notes during the game. I don't know how you guard him.
Nope.
It's Darius Slay is about the only guy who's really managed to sort of take him out of a game plan. And if I remember right, that was also a lot of, secondary help from the safety as well. And it's just he's an unguardable wide receiver in the way that he runs routes. I mean, there were routes where it looked like Tampa was playing a zone because of how open he was, but it was a man-to-man.
Yeah.
It was a man-to-man defensive snap and just ran Carlton Davis out of the play. And so he's and that Tampa Bay defense is clearly no slouch. They won a Super Bowl a couple of years ago with many of those guys. They obviously made it hard for the Vikings in a lot of ways, but for the most part, Justin Jefferson was unguardable. He's it's a marvel to watch him weekly. And
I think he gets a lot of option routes, and that's the key. Because O'Connell's spoken about this. There's two ways to double a guy, and you can double him vertically, so he can't go deep, or but then he goes horizontal and he gets, a 25-yard gain. Oh, you double him horizontally, and then he goes deep and he gets a one-on-one and he, gets a 25-yard gain. So it kind of seems like he's a walking 25-yard gain, a 30-yard gain, or 40, just the sky's the limit. Yeah. So I think he has a lot of options in this offense, which I think is a good thing. I think it's what he needs, because you can't just say, Jefferson, you're going deep and we're going to hope that they don't catch on. I think that he gets to see, who is it that's on me? Do I need to go deep with this, or do I need to go inside? And the level of, it's almost like quarterback level processing that he has to do as a wide receiver, because he is such a threat that teams are treating him, as such a threat. He has to make these decisions, and then he makes them, and it seems like he's right most of the time. And Cousins delivers him a good ball as long as he's protected. Getting into the Eagles and how they look, they didn't look good. They looked like they were blowing out New England. It looked like early. And then quickly, New England just scratched and clawed their way back into the game. The offense wasn't really making explosive plays, they being the Eagles. They let New England get right back into that game, to the point where New England was driving late with an opportunity.
Chance to win the game.
Yeah, a chance to win the game, and they failed to convert on a third down by about 6 millimeters because it was a toe drag away from being a conversion. So the secondary and the defensive line, I don't want to say nowhere near as good as it was, because, it was week one. It was the Tom Brady game. It was Bill Belichick with all these weeks to prepare for specifically Jalen Hurts in Philadelphia.
Absolutely. Yep.
He's pretty good at, preparing for guys whenever he has time.
Yeah.
But I do think that if Mac Jones and I'm trying to think of their wide receivers like Juju Smith-Schuster and Hunter Henry, if they can go out there and have a chance to win it late, I don't see any reason why the Vikings couldn't mimic that level of success. And also, 7 of the points that Philadelphia scored were capitalizing on a mistake by Mac Jones and his receiver, where a ball was, I think, a little high, tipped off the receiver's hands, and I can't remember. I think it was Slay.
Slay took it back.
Yeah,
yep.
Slay picks it off and took it for 6, and so you take that play off the board, who knows how that game goes. I know you can do that with just about any play, where you can say, we'll take away the pick 6 and everything's different. But I think that there is a legitimate case to be made that, hey, that's why I'm stressing tone over Philly football on Thursday night is the
Yep.
best chance you have to beat them. I disagree with you. I know I started the show doom and gloom, and I said, I think I'm going to tone on a dime. I can't let this team start 0-2 in my own head
It's up
canon.
to you, Jordan.
It's up to me. I can't let it happen. I broke out the Jim Klein also because we need some blocking. We need some elite level protection for Kirk Cousins. I'm going to go with the Vikings winning 27-24. That Mekhi Blackman interception seals the game for the team. I think that's the key.
It.
I want it to happen real bad, but we'll see. We'll see. I already said, I said Blackman was my game ball. I'm picking us to win by 3 points. I'm trying to think of what else there is really to cover. I guess I'll give my final thoughts briefly. Make sure that you're following this guy, Will Goodwin at Will Badlose on X. I mean, he's just the GOAT. Follow the Bad Loser blog, which is just top tier. Aside from his MLB ballpark rankings, those were Great American was a little bit too low for this Cincinnati kid, but maybe it's because I grew up getting
If
cotton
you get me
candy
tickets and bring me out there, maybe I'll change my ranking.
Okay, well now I think we'll talk. I think that's a bribe, and I believe that that's illegal, but I don't. I don't think it is. I don't think it's illegal to bribe somebody if it's for baseball power rankings. But no, check that out and check out VikingsTerritory.com as well. While you're perusing the internet, this is going to be a fun game. It's going to be very exciting. I'm not going to give a big speech like I did last year. Although it did get my dad excited, as I said it would. Apparently it didn't find its way to the offensive line like I wanted it to, so they kind of played poo-poo. But I don't think Ed Ingram's going to, have a strip sack in this game. I think the protection will stand up a little bit better, and I think that the adjustments are going to get made. O'Connell didn't adjust on the fly like I think he needed to on Sunday, but now, albeit a short week, he has a couple days now to sleep on this loss. The whole team has a bad taste in its mouth. Philadelphia kind of cruised to a victory against New England. I'm not saying they didn't fight for it because it did turn into a dogfight there at the end, but they did get a victory. They're feeling good about themselves. They spoiled Tom Brady Day in New England. They might be, but on the flip side, it is their home opener, so I don't want to say, they're prime pickings for an upset, but I like the Vikings in this one. I at least like our chance. We have a punch-us chance, and that's for sure.
Yep.
It's going to be a good game. If you don't have Amazon Prime, get Amazon Prime and watch this game because it's going to be a good one. So, I'll let you get your final thoughts in, and then I know you started us off, but you can take us out too if you want to.
Sure.
We'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, last thing I'll say, honestly, it's just the inverse of what I said going into the Tampa Bay game. Don't be shocked if the Vikings make this competitive. The Vikings started at like a 7.5 point underdog, which is kind of what you give for Matt. Like there aren't many lines bigger than 10. So if the Vikings are going in as 7.5 point dogs, that means that the odds makers see this as a mismatch. I would expect that line to go down as the week goes on. I'd be surprised if it stays that high, similar to how the Bucks line went from about 6.5 down to 5 right before kickoff. But like I said, don't be shocked if the Vikings make this a competitive game and win this game. Everyone thought the Vikings would trounce over the Buccaneers, and although they maybe should have, the Bucks came to play and put up a fight. The same thing can also be true here, where I think don't count out a team that sort of has its back against the wall, did well in that situation last year, clearly has a level of fight in them. So I think it's going to be a very entertaining, very competitive, close game on Thursday night, which happens to be my brother's birthday. So shout out to Jake.
There we go.
And that's all we got. I think it's going to be fun. It's another good opportunity for a team to kind of show their mettle, show what they're made of very quickly. And then the good flip side of this is, especially if you win on Thursday night, then you get 10 days off to prepare for the Chargers. So
For sure.
Really big early season opportunity in front of Minnesota. We'll see what O'Connell, Cousins, and the rest of the crew are made of 7 p.m. ish Central Time on Amazon Prime Thursday night. That's all we got. Skol, y'all.